I think prudence is the best choice. The countries that seem to be able to contain things right now, and again, that could change, are countries that are making prudent choices and bold choices in the face of uncertainty.
Welcome to another edition of Dragonproof e-commerce. I am Richard Otey. I am here with Rick Wilson, CEO of Miva. Today we have an important discussion on a story that's been dominating the news and causing deep concern within our community. And I really invite you all to kind of really lean in and hear as we cover both what's going on and some of the facts that we have listed here shortly, and kind of Rick's opinion of how people deal with the business, the emotional elements, and actually running a company while such news is going on. So first and foremost, Rick, glad to have you back.
Always a pleasure. Thanks for having me here.
Yeah, it's not quite as uplifting and
this isn't the happy joy show like we sometimes do,
which is probably a little difficult, but it's important.
Yeah,
it's important, and I'm really interested as we get into this podcast to hear a lot of your opinions. First, in general, I think this is a good time for you to reiterate a bit for our listeners as to what is this podcast about before I get into some of these stats and why we're talking about this. Just the general concept of Dragonproof and what that means, just so as we go into the stats and what we're going to talk about, they're reminded why we're doing this show.
Sure. I mean, the idea of Dragonproof, the book, the podcast we've done, all of those sort of flow from the idea that being a business person is about managing a way through fundamental uncertainty, right? So every part of business is uncertainty. Recently at a town hall internally at the office, we had an employee ask anonymously, is the business facing any challenges? What are you doing to face them? And this is before this particular subject had come up. And I sort of quipped that the whole point of business is challenge, right? We don't get paid otherwise. We don't make money otherwise. There's nothing to do if you're not solving challenges. So I think that's where the Dragonproof concept really flows from, that it could be Amazon, which we've kind of referred to it as in our world, but it could be anything.
Mm-hmm. And, so what we're going to specifically get into, for those of you who haven't guessed yet already, is we're going to be talking about the coronavirus and the fears and uncertainty, and try to separate the signal from the noise. And, I'm going to read just a couple quick stats here, depending upon, it's moving so fast. Depending upon when you're listening to this, it could be completely different, but
it almost certainly will be, but yeah.
So hopefully you're listening to it the day that this goes live. But basic stats as of time of recording this is 90,000 people have been infected. We have 3,000 deaths, and the outbreaks are in at least 56 countries. The New York Times said global stock markets have lost $6 trillion in 6 days. The Wall Street Journal is saying 25% drop in container volumes in February at Port of LA, and major impact in the key trading route. Imagine 1 in 4 containers not coming in. This is consumer nation, as you know.
Absolutely.
Facebook canceled F8 and restrict all non-essential employees from coming into the office. And American Airlines is waiving all change fees on bookings, and they don't like doing that.
I actually got an email this morning from United announcing the same policy. So, they will all be doing that here shortly.
Yeah, and literally right before we pressed record, you were saying there's a couple other new stats that you just saw pop up on the phone. What were those again?
Yeah, this is going to go down as one of the weirder episodes, I hope, at least, that we ever record. But as we were sitting here prepping today, the alerts on my phone. Italy's closing all schools. Twitter wants people to work from home. LA County declares state of emergency. And that's all in the last, hour. So Timeliness is going to be interesting on this subject. So,
yeah, I mean, and there's so many different paths I want to go down right now, but just since this podcast is about helping people steward the ship and their business and their families and their lives, before we even get started, I want to ask you, like, are you panicked at all?
That's a great question. Am I personally panicked? No, I'm not. In fact, I was going to make a joke. It sort of sounds like you have a cold. I was going to ask if you have the virus. But no, I'm not personally panicked. But for me personally, my experience with this subject, the coronavirus, really went from being something I was reading in the news, I guess, a week ago today, to being in full-fledged response mode. And it started flowing Friday as far as studying and practicing and figuring out what on earth to do. And I think prudence is the best choice. The countries that seem to be able to contain things right now, and again, that could change, are countries that are making prudent choices and bold choices in the face of uncertainty. So, for example, what we're doing at Miva is we are, if employees can work from home, we're having them work from home. Travel's off the books right now. And then therefore, some people are going to need a safe space to go to. Some people have roommates and families. They're going to want to go to an office. And so we want to have an office that has as much space as possible. So there's literally a safe space for them, so to speak. Now that, again, could all change. We'll change our policies in real time. But no, I'm not panicked, but it is now a time for prudent, bold decisions.
Mm-hmm. You know, that also kind of, segues to where I wanted to go anyway, is through the prism of a CEO that's head of a 100-person plus company. In addition to these choices that you're making, that's going on right now, how should a business owner be looking at this? So we'll just say from your point of view right now first, and then we'll kind of bring into kind of what others should be thinking later. But just right now, as a whole, how are you viewing this?
I think there's a few different angles there that I can touch on. So the first and foremost thing is, we all think about being in business as a way to generate revenue. But the truth is, without people, there aren't a business, right? So our whole world right now is to protect our people, whether it's your employees, whether it's your family. If you don't start from that spot, you're going to kind of miss the response here that's important. The second thing is really the idea that, because if you wait until something's gone wrong in this case, right? So in this particular case around the coronavirus, if you wait until someone was sick at your office, you've waited way too long, right? Because you have a 2-week incubation period, they think. We don't know how it spread exactly. It seems to be more contagious than the cold or the flu. So you can't wait right now till you know. This is one of those defining moments in business where you have to make a decision with virtually no information other than we watched China, which is 1.4 billion people, shut down. I mean, that's really what you need to know as a business person. China shut down a country of 1.4 billion people, which is why the container ships are so light right now. You can't get stuff, right? And we'll come back to that, I think, later. But right now you have to make bold decisions that have to be prudent in the face of virtually no fundamental knowledge. In 2 months, we will probably know how this thing spread. Hopefully in 12 to 18 months, we'll have a vaccine, right? So things will change, and we will get through these uncertain times. But right now, you make bold, strong decisions that protect your people.
Mm-hmm. Well, and that also makes me want to, get into covering the difference between systems and processes and people. And so what exactly would be some of the things? So say the physical health of your workers, you're taking action to say you can stay at home. I didn't hear there. Are you making it mandatory?
No, we're not. I mean, if you ask me in a week, that could change. But currently, no, it's not mandatory. It's strongly encouraged, right? But let's say someone's situation at home is such that they feel like home's a riskier place. I mean, if someone wants to camp out at the office because we've created a safe space, I don't even mind if they sleep there. I mean, right now we're trying to allow maximum choice with social distance. And so, if you stay at least 6 to 10 feet away from everyone else, odds of getting there lower, we think, right? So again, I'm not an expert. I'm not a virologist. I'm just a guy who runs a business trying to make decisions in an uncertain time. So we're trying to create the maximum flexibility. We want to make sure people know that we're not panicked, that but we're just taking it seriously. And I think that's where we're coming from.
Mm-hmm. So part of leadership is just leading by example. The obvious, we've heard this a million times, especially as a father. I'm beginning to learn that more and more. When I'm at the very beginning, talking with Olivia, my daughter, it was the words meant more. And then now that she's 7 years old, it's more my actions and the way I respond to things and what she sees me actually do mean more than the words, although the words are important as well. So that kind of leads me to another thing that I've been thinking about is how do you handle the emotions of your employees, and are they freaking out, or is anybody getting paranoid there?
So it's interesting, watching both how our employees are responding as well as how people are responding online. You kind of see a duality of response. So the one side, you feel people who are panicking. And at least in America at this point, that's not overwhelming. There's some people feeling that, at least from what I see. And then you see a lot of people who are kind of dismissive, right? Making jokes, lots of jokes about Corona the beer and blah, blah, blah. And I think the answer needs to be in the middle, right? So the issue is not if we all got the virus that we're going to die, right? The mortality rate is not that. The reason it's spreading is because the mortality rate's just high enough to be dangerous, but not so high that it actually kills the people. So it's the thing that makes it unique, the thing that makes it different than, say, H1N1 or SARS, is that it is just deadly enough and just contagious enough that most people won't be harmed. For most people who get it, it'll feel like the common cold or flu, but I don't want my mom to get it because the mortality rate at that age is high. So I think it's really about practicing prudence. I'll probably say that word 100 times in this podcast, but you know me, I'm a laid-back guy. I mean, as CEO, I'm driven, but I'm a laid-back guy. And so what we're trying to communicate to our employees and people we work with is simply the idea that it's not a time for panic. It is specifically a time for wise decisions.
Mm-hmm. I think about that. I've known you for years, and you're so strong and confident in so many ways. And back to your comment of making prudent decisions, you've made some tough ones over the years, and so protecting your people, it sounds as if, is the most important. Whether it be you're talking about mom or talking about employees, because again, the listeners here that have been listening to the podcast, they're probably mostly business owners, for the most part, right?
I would assume,
maybe some of them are aspiring to be, but they're looking for guidance. And so, how would you recommend to some people what exactly is a prudent decision? I mean, let's kind of, for someone that's sitting there and they're going, well, I'm making a prudent decision. I got to keep my business alive. Keeping my business alive means I got to make more sales. So I'm playing a little bit of devil's advocate right here. Like, what is the right? Is it going to be different for different businesses?
Oh, absolutely.
Put it that way.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think the first place to start there is the simplest prudent decisions are things like, if you can do, like we have every Friday a standing huddle for the whole company. As of today, we've canceled those until further notice. We'll do a virtual one via Slack, right? Or we'll use Zoom, right? So tools like Zoom and Slack, they're kind of easy, low-hanging fruit decisions. I think for a lot of entrepreneurs who are listening to this, they probably already work from home, but let's say they have a warehouse doing fulfillment. Those people are in tight quarters usually. What can you do to minimize contact? Can you leave doors open so you don't touch door handles? What kind of stuff can you do? Think through where this all plays out. And then from a business owner's perspective, it shifts gears. What happens if I can't get product, right?
Exactly where I was going.
It's hard to say. So that's why the stock market, that's why the $6 trillion disappeared. Because business, that kind of uncertainty, if you can't get product, right? If China was shut down, which it was, therefore you can't get inventory, what happens next? And the answer is we don't know. So you just make, it's probably a good time to tighten your belt just a little bit. I wouldn't say stop doing business, but I would say it's a good time to, If something's optional or it can be pushed out 30 days, push it out 30 days. Like, usually you have 30 days to make most decisions, right? And in this ironic case, you need to make decisions today with no information and push your whole world out a couple weeks to get a lot of information.
Mm-hmm. Do you have a structure, or formula wouldn't really be the word, but do you have some form of structure how each of the processes, from logistics or shipping or don't have inventory, is there, do you follow the same process for each one when you're making a decision, or is each one kind of compartmentalized?
I think each one's pretty compartmentalized. I think you have to go through them one by one. And, some businesses, not to be macabre, but some businesses will benefit from this, right? Digital businesses, virtual businesses, Zoom and Slack, for example.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But you know who I wouldn't want to be right now? Marriott, right? Their business is in free fall. Now, Marriott's still going to be here. Marriott's the biggest hotel chain in the world. They're not going anywhere. But running a hotel right now or running an airline right now, you have really different decision matrices than maybe the people we're talking to. So that's why you have to really take your business, even internally. Software dev for us, they can work from home. Website dev, they can work from home. Tech support, we need to reconfigure their computers, but we're working on that. But luckily in our world, most of our employees could work from home, right? But there's certain jobs we'd never really thought about having people work from home, like accounting. So you can certainly do it from home, but we're not structured that way. So we're going department by department and putting together like a list of things we have to do so that we can have maximum flexibility. And one of the goals we have as a company is to become a more flexible company at the end of this, right? So right now we're trying to protect our people. One of the hopefully long-term positive outlooks is we'll be a more flexible company prepared to handle change and issues in real time.
Mm-hmm. It kind of makes me think of kind of America in general. I know this is a worldwide thing going on, but America, they had a problem, and so they came over to find a solution, and then it led to another problem, and then they found a solution, and it came, problem solution, like this never-ending chain. And so taking this conversation and then trying to say, how could someone apply these, how could they take this conversation and apply these concepts to year-round basis, just regarding business in general?
Sure. I mean, it's funny. We as a business, for a variety of reasons, because our business is part of the credit card industry fundamentally, right? E-commerce. So we have to do disaster recovery planning just in order to have our PCI certification. And the irony of disaster recovery planning is you're never going to plan for the right disaster, right? That's not what comes. The exercise, the thing that a business person would take out of this is the exercise is the planning, right? So you sit there and you plan, and I could plan for a tornado. We haven't had a tornado in San Diego that I've ever heard of, but we could plan for a tornado, and it would almost be as helpful as planning for an earthquake, because it's the critical thinking exercise of working through your business and what happens during a disruption. And those are the business people who are going to thrive out of this, not to make this about that. But if you can plan for disruptions, just the critical thinking process of it, it's the exercise itself that makes you a better business person, and probably a better human if you're protecting your people.
Well, and that also kind of reminds me to a quote I had here from Tim Cook in regards to how the fluctuations in the market with the coronavirus going on. And it says, I don't really focus on the short term in relationships to the market. I think for me and the way we run the company, we work towards the long term, and I see no long-term difference between what is happening 4 weeks ago with the virus and what's happening today. And wonder what your thoughts are on that.
I agree. I agree with him completely on this. We have a new dragon by definition, right? Which is part of why we're talking about it here. So we have a new dragon. We'd never seen it. So we're still in that learning phase of what happens. But do I believe in 12 months or 18 months that the world's going to be back to normal? Yeah, totally. I think it'll be as if, it might take the airlines a couple of years to get their money back. It might take the hotels a couple of years to get their money back. But pretty sure most people aren't crying over Marriott or United, right? So I think the long-term outlook of this stuff is no big deal. But I think today you need to be you need to be cautious.
So this, to your point there, and thanks for your opinion, but I'm going to kind of stick up for the listener and see, like, yeah, that's fine, but the companies that you just said are like, they're Fortune 100, they're gigantic companies, right? They're going to be around. For the listener of this podcast, like, do you think,
like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
I think for the listener of this podcast, I
I could easily see them completely freaking out.
Well, so
and not even that they're going to catch the virus, but that everyone else's panic is going to ruin their business.
So I mean, you think about it. You could have someone who's listening to this podcast who sells custom auto parts that are manufactured and fabricated here in the United States, right? Their ability to get inventory, their ability to run their business is probably as simple as just being reasonably prudent. You think about someone who's maybe drop shipping from Alibaba. Their businesses probably have a different risk factor. So that's why there's no one universal answer to how you plan for this thing. And will there be some businesses in the world that get decimated by this? Sure. I don't think that number is going to be large. I don't think it's going to be statistically significant. If 1,000 people listen to this who are business owners, I don't think, maybe none of them fundamentally lose their business. It's just, it's time to think things through. This is not a time to close your eyes and just hit the gas.
Mm. So that said, kind of riffing off the Tim Cook quote there, is how do we approach the long-term thinking versus short-term thinking?
Sure. So actually, one of the other headlines that came across right as we were preparing to record today was Apple's currently preparing for an iPhone replacement shortage. Right, because think about how they get iPhone replacements. You drop your phone, you break it, you go to the Genius Bar, and they give you a new one. But they're not the same new ones you bought when you were brand new. They come in that other different white box, and they're actually been refurbished. They ship all those to China, as far as I know, and refurbish them there. So they have a disruption in their ability to get their own refurbished product back. Right. So I promise you, Tim Cook's team and him personally are thinking about that. So that's when that would be a version of his short-term planning. Right. He's planning right now for, we had a camera module that was going to be in the iPhone 12 this year, and we may not get it. Or we may have to change battery suppliers. Those are all short-term things he's thinking about. And those are the kind of things I would encourage any person here. Make sure you understand your supply chain right now. Like, know where your product's coming from. Don't just assume it's going to show up. Because I know 2 days ago, people could go buy Purell, and good luck finding it today. So.
Yeah, so that being said, how would you recommend to other business owners, how would you recommend them stay calm and being able to shepherd their businesses, their employees? Is there anything that you've, other than just your personal, it's going to be your philosophy regardless.
It does kind of come down to philosophy. But here's the thing. It's also a math question. Statistically speaking, anyone listening to this who has a business and has employees, their business is going to be here in 12 months and 18 months, and their business is going to be fine. So the first way you stay calm is you take a breath and you think about that. Then the second thing you do is say, okay, now's a really good time to rethink everything as far as, like, do my employees have a place to go? Do my employees have a safe space? Do I have access to product? Will I be able to ship product? And then what do I do if those things change? And again, it's the disaster you prepare for is not what's going to be happening, right? You might think, I'm prepared because I'm not going to get inventory. But it may end up being that your employees have to, work remote.
Mm-hmm. So how do you avoid overreacting?
My guess is this. Most business people don't overreact because otherwise they'd be bad business people. So it starts with taking a breath. You take a breath, Matt, I would assume everyone who's listening to this has been in a relationship in their life. We've all been pissed off, right? How do you not overreact? How do you not get mad at Olivia when she's throwing a tantrum?
It's so weird you just said that.
Sometimes you do, but then you walk in the other room and take a breath and you wash your hands. Everyone wash their hands, by the way. It's a good time to remind the people of that. But you take a breath and then you go and you calm yourself down. And that space is where you get your wisdom.
Did I ever tell you? So Olivia's middle name is Pearl.
I knew that.
Did I ever tell you one of the reasons, other than my great grandma's name, and we liked it?
It wasn't from that Will Ferrell video?
No. it's specifically kind of comes back to what you just said. It was really more for us as parents as a reminder that more the metaphor of the pearl, that it was an irritation, that something beautiful in the end came back. And so this
You're gonna make me cry.
this kid that's just trying to learn to be themselves, to grow, to be their own person, that we want her to be outspoken. We want her to, speak her mind. And then, so it was really for when I'm saying something to her, like, don't do that, or trying to be some sort of impose what I thought my thought process is on it. I'll say, Miss Pearl, to remind myself it's my way to take that breath.
Yeah.
When it comes to just with the family, that's a good point though, is sometimes just breathing, relaxing for a second. One of those "this too shall pass" type moments.
Yeah. And I mean, I think you just, if you had to sum up my philosophy about this particular crisis, this too shall pass. It will pass. It always does. I will say this: one of the harder lessons I've had to learn as a CEO is, when you're first running a business and it's all you, or if you're coming up in a business and you ultimately take over as CEO, you start by doing actions, right? So if you think back to when you watched me buy Miva back 13 years ago, most of my day was dominated by actions, right? What's accounting doing? What's this? As time goes on and you grow to be a successful CEO, the most successful thing I can do is take time to sit around, read the news, and think. And so I would strongly encourage that right now. That's one piece of practical advice.
Yeah, and so one thing as a reminder, I know this isn't really about your business. This is about businesses in general, but your business is helping other businesses run their business, right? I know that was
right.
Wordy, but so we've heard your opinion on how you steward your business and how you steward your employees. But how do you speak to your customers about this?
That's a good question. We haven't actually done it yet, so I don't know the answer. We're still getting all of our preparedness messaging ready, and we're going to start speaking to customers in the next 24 hours. I guess I would say things that I'm similar to saying here. Don't panic. This is all going to be fine, but here are some adjustments in the course we're going to take. So, we have a conference. Magento just canceled their conference. Shopify canceled their conference. Our conference is supposed to be in a couple weeks. We're 99.99% certain we're postponing it. And me personally, I'm 100% certain we're postponing it. We're just working through some of the details. And so it's going to be something I've got to figure out in the next day. How do we share this with our customers? How do we make sure we help them? We'll probably also have a virtual aspect to it where we get to communicate. And I wouldn't be shocked if this is a big subject of the town hall we'll end up doing around this.
How would you, so I'm just thinking about this as you gave me that answer, how would you recommend your customers talk to their customers?
I think it would start by being honest, right? So I've heard people this week say, they've started realizing that stuff they ordered from China is still not here, and there'll be excuses. The excuse they get from the factory in China is Chinese New Year or this or that. That's all bullshit. The excuse right now from China is coronavirus, right? And so if your product is backlogged because you can't get it, way better to tell customers and then make it up for them. They'll trust you. They'll come back if you do that. If you lie to them, they might keep that particular purchase, but my guess is you just shot yourself in the foot with getting them to come back and be a customer again.
Mm-hmm. So part of what I love about conversation is new thoughts come out in the middle of a conversation. We had a general idea of what we wanted to talk about here. We wanted it to be relatively brief because we're not trying to take people down a rabbit hole and worry.
Yeah, and we're not journalists. We're not experts. We're just business people talking.
Exactly. And so one of the things, I don't normally ask a question like this, but has anything unfolded in the conversation with you that maybe we didn't talk about prior to starting this, that we get this news? That's big news that all schools
in Italy are shut down
until
further notice.
Yeah, I mean, yep. 1 minute before we press record. So there's just a part of me that's, this is a living, organic, moving thing. And when we get new information, it's going to change, right? That, like you said, this is the nature of being an entrepreneur. You're constantly getting in. You take educated guesses, and then you take action, and then you adjust according to the data that comes in. So,
yeah, let me sort of walk you through my own personal journey the last week with this.
Yeah, so that's perfect.
Last Friday, I go to lunch with our former CEO and my business partner, which we do every week, and we were eating in a restaurant that happened to be in a large parking lot with a Costco, right? And I walked in saying, "Hey, I think there's a pretty solid chance that we may have to consider postponing MivaCon." And he looks at me and he goes, "I'm following this way more closely. I'm telling you there's a 100% chance we're postponing MivaCon." And moments before this happened, I would have personally guessed the chances at like 1%, right? So it was a life-shifting event. And then the same day, I'm talking to our podcast producer, and he's like, "I've got an idea. What if we do a podcast on the coronavirus?" And I was like, "What the hell am I going to say about the coronavirus? Like, I'm not an expert on this. This isn't my specialty." But that was the uncertainty, which is why it's Dragonproof, right? Because that's exactly what we do all day long, is follow the uncertainty. And then as I'm watching or thinking about this while eating in the Costco parking lot, not actually in the parking lot, but in a restaurant, looking into the parking lot, I started imagining a world in 4 weeks where that parking lot was empty because we were all basically staying home. And then that's how I started doing my own disaster planning in my head about our business. Like, well, let's say that happens, then what do we do? And I work through it. So yeah, this is the reason we're talking about this is the definition of navigating uncertainty, or a dragon we didn't know existed.
So first I want to say thank you for joining us and listening to the show. Really hope that if anything you got out of it, it's stay the course, adjust according to your business needs, take care of your team, take care of your family, talk to your customers, be honest. Rick, do you have any final takeaways or anything that you would like to add?
I promise you we'll try to be funnier next time.
Oh, it's a guarantee. But, it's, especially knowing our personalities, it shows the potential severity of this. Not potential. It's severe and it's affecting people now. But I think really there's two separate things.
You actually just reminded me of the one thing I wanted to cover. So yesterday, the World Health Organization came out and they said what would feel like conflicting things in the same report. One is the mortality rate was higher than they thought. So it was 3.4%, not 2.3. So that's scary, right? But they said there's a glimmer of hope because countries that are being cautious and taking it seriously, the wave is sort of passing them over. And as you know, I like to sail. It's like my favorite hobby. This is just a time to tighten. You trim the sail. You trim the sail to the winds you have, and that's what we're doing.
Yeah. So feels like a strange segue to say this, but I would say if you enjoy conversations where we're trying to help you move your business forward and you really want to come back and listen more, please subscribe to Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, wherever you listen on your podcast players. Take care of your companies. We'll see you next time. This is Dragonproof e-commerce.
Thanks again, everyone. Talk to you guys soon.